everybody. Ooh, it's a very blustery day out here at Middleton Place. Hopefully if you joined us at Lamb Cam, you recognize this set here. We are just about to start with our Friday afternoon History Unplugged. So thanks so much for being here. Thanks for joining us on our Friday Plugged into History program. We've got Jeff and Bob and myself, Karen. You're gonna see me occasionally grabbing some stuff, which is why I mentioned that. But anyway, Jeff and Bob are gonna give us our first foray here into Middleton Place in the kitchen. We're gonna do a cooking show. Now, our kitchen might look a little bit different than yours, unless you have an open hearth fire pit in your kitchen. We're socially distancing here, which is good. That's recommended. So these guys are gonna give you some tips and tricks and hopefully some information on how they might be able to do this at home, guys, not over the open fire. Okay, cool. Yeah. So temperatures and, cooking temperatures and things might be adjustable, but in general, all of this stuff that we're doing here today, you can do right there at home in your kitchen. And so we just want to say thanks very much for letting us continue to do this digital program, for joining us, and for helping us to connect with each other as well as with history. So, all right, guys, what do we have on tap today?
We've got a flip.
Yes.
Now I have to tell you, Jeff is quite the experimenter with some of these things, and he comes up with all these things. And I'm always willing to be a guinea pig. So
Me too, Bob.
I know this flip involves a warmed ale. That's what we have here. It's an amber ale that we're warmed, not boiling or anything too.
You can point to that again. I didn't have the camera on it.
Right here in
there you go.
Boiler. We also have an egg.
Yes, we're actually going to use 2 eggs.
2 eggs.
So I'm going to put 2 eggs in the bowl.
Now, when you did this earlier, frankly, it kind of looked to me like sort of like a French toast batter with alcohol. It's a rather interesting combination. But
can we do that?
Can
that be the next?
Okay, we got our 2 eggs. Now we're going to add about 2 ounces of rum, give or take. All right.
Good dark rum.
And then on top of that, we've got some demerara, which is basically raw sugar. That's all it is. And we're going to add roughly about, 2 tablespoons. Of course, this being Friday, we have to have a beverage before we do anything else out there.
Right.
All right. So we're going to take this and we're going to whisk this all together. I've got my little fork here, and we're just going to start to churn this together.
Hi, Mom. Thanks for joining us. She says hi, guys.
Now, the reason this is called a flip, and neither of us will do any acrobatics, I just want to get that out of your mind, is that we flip the drink back and forth to blend it or to mix it. It's quite the floor show.
So once we get this mixed up, and I've got it here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the pitchers here, and we're going to pour it into this first pitcher. Okay? So we've got our mixture of egg, rum, and sugar. I'm going to pour that in.
Hi, Paulette.
All right. All right, we'll set that to the side. Put this in our 18th century sink. All right, now we have that. Now the next thing we're going to use is I need the ale that's been heated.
Coming to you.
Okay. Right back to what? Let me get on this side of the table here. And we'll put that up here for me. Okay. It's not too bad. I think I can hold it.
Okay.
We're going to take that. We've got this is just an amber ale. All right. Nut brown ale, anything like that would work. I'm going to put that into our second pitcher. All right, and this has just been heated. Okay, it's not.
Just warm.
Now, what we're going to do.
Hi, Sarah from Indiana. We are making an 18th century drink called Flip.
Flip. Matter of fact, here's the flip part. I'm going to take the ale, and we are going to very slowly here at first pour this into this mixture. And then I'm going to take this, pour it into the next, pour it back.
The mixture is eggs, rum, and sugar. Go back to the beginning of this video when we're all done and you'll get the recipe.
So we're going to keep flipping.
So Paulette wants to know, why do you heat the ale for this drink?
We want to heat the ale because this will help with the flavor. All right, number 1, that's probably the biggest thing. Number 2, you're going to see. We're going to do something else here at the end.
Very dramatic.
Yes, that's going to add to it. Let's do, how about we do one more flip here?
One more.
Okay.
You're a madman.
Bob, shall we make 2 glasses or just 1 here?
Oh, I'm willing to belt a little back.
Okay.
I want to try some.
what I will do is I think we're going to do this in the pitcher then.
Okay.
All right, now, here in the fire, you see Bob, I have a Toddy Iron. Okay, what this is just a piece of metal, a metal rod, and it has been heated up. We can get it off there. I'm gonna do this in the pitcher since we're gonna pour this into other glasses, 3 glasses. Take this and we're going to insert this into the pitcher. Can you hear the sizzle? There she starts. Let me move that out of your way. There you go.
Sparkly.
So you see it's starting to bubble. We may have a little ash in here. That's all right. Just gives it a little body. That's all. That's all. Won't hurt. All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put that.
This was kind of, you know, this was at the time in the 18th and actually also through the 19th century. This was kind of like, you know, just a normal drink, but it's got a little flair to it. So we've heated that up. All right. We'll take that out. Now get our glasses here. We'll pour one for Bob. A little bit for you.
Actually, I want to get a little closer here and watch the pour.
Yeah, there we go. Notice, I don't think we have any big chunks that I'm seeing.
No chunks is good. No chunks means what?
That the egg has not coagulated or anything.
drink.
Good. No
Bob,
curdle.
I'll give this to you.
Thank you, sir.
Karen?
Ah, thank you. Hey, everybody.
And so,
To your health.
to your health. Happy Friday.
Wanda,
Cheers.
Happy May.
Let's see what we
Cheers.
think.
I never had a drink that tasted like scrambled egg before.
Ah,
I'll be honest, you don't really taste the egg. I mean, the egg gives a little bit of body, but
Yeah,
the rum and the ale kind
It's
of
actually pretty good.
it's kind of like a really, not as thick as eggnog,
no.
but it's got a little heat to it. And this is something you can very easily do at home. The whole toddy rod, you can put that in to help heat it up some more, or you don't have to. You could always skip that part. It's just a little more dramatic. And if anything, here in Middleton Place, we like being dramatic. So,
y'all, this is tasty here. I'm just gonna show you. In here. So,
It's
there
got a
you go.
nice.
It's a little
bouquet.
frothy, a little bubbly. That's delicious.
well, if you've been with us most of the week, we've been talking about spring planting. Okay, but mostly what we've been talking about in this spring planting is rice, because that is the big cash crop down here. So we thought we would share some recipes with you that you could easily do at home, whether if you want to do it over an open hearth or whether you want to do it on the stove in the oven, that's fine. All of these recipes actually come from the Carolina Housewife, which was written by Sarah, I'm trying to get her full name right, Sarah Middleton
Rutledge. That's right.
Here, okay,
Yep,
in
that
about
sounds-
roughly
that
around
sounds maybe-
1847, I believe it was written. Okay, here in the Dutch oven, since these took a little while, we already got a few things started. In one Dutch oven, we have a rice pie. All right, and basically all this rice pie is. You want to show it? Yeah,
Oh,
we
sure,
can take a
that's
look.
fine.
Let's see what she looks like at this point.
Still cooking.
Okay, can you
Drop
get it?
any ash in there.
There we go.
Whoa.
Looking pretty good.
beautiful,
okay.
guys.
What this is basically this is cooked rice. All right. We've lined the bottom of the pan with rice, and then I made a beef stew, which we use carrot, potatoes, a little bit of parsley, a few other little things. Just your traditional beef stew. Make
Did
sure
you use any
chicken
flat
breast-
Arthur?
Did we? Yes, always.
Oh no! Flat Arthur's in the pie!
He gives it that extra kick.
Oh my gosh!
And then on top of that, we took the rest of the rice, placed on that. I like to mix butter in with the rice, very much so. And then we do that. Over an open hearth here with this, I would say we're gonna let this cook for about 15 to 20 minutes or so. Since most of this is already cooked, we're just trying to get it all formed. If you wanna do this at home, this can easily be done in an oven at about, I would say maybe about 325 degrees, roughly. Probably for about, 15, 20 minutes, somewhere in that area. Now, our second one is, we did savory, now let's do sweet. This, oh, how's this? Oh my goodness, it's working. Okay.
You seem surprised, Jeff.
I'm always surprised when I do this one. This is a rice pudding. Okay. Now, what this constitutes of is basically we parboil the rice. Now, when you cook rice over an open hearth, especially if we're looking at 18th, 19th century recipes, what they say you do is that for every 1 pint of rice, we add a gallon of water. Now, a lot of people's like, a gallon of water for a pint of rice?
Wow.
That's ridiculous. here's the catch. What we're going to do is we're going to mix those together. We're going to bring that water to a boil. You have to watch it because when that rice starts to swell, which will be in probably about, once you get it to a boil, maybe about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, we're going to drain every bit of that water off. As soon as it starts to swell, get rid of all the water and then take the pot, and they would do what was called soaking the rice. And what that means is we'll take the pot and we're going to sit it in the ash. And we're going to leave it there for up to an hour. All right. If you're doing this in a hearth or in a fireplace, in the far back wall of the fireplace. All right. So we cook the rice with that. We let it cool. I took about a cup, maybe 2 cups of rice. We warmed this in a saucepan with milk until I got almost all that milk evaporated. Okay. There was still a little bit, and then while that was going, I took milk. We used 5 eggs. All right. Cinnamon. Nutmeg. We mixed all those together and we made a custard. That's what I did out. And then mixed that with the rice, put that in my pan, put it in here in the Dutch oven. Again, this is roughly about 15, 20 minutes or so with this. In the oven, I would say again, probably about 300, 325, but you're probably looking maybe slightly longer, maybe about 30 minutes or so with that. Because this is getting, with these coals, and you notice,
pretty hot fire.
We don't have a lot of flame here, except what we got here. Bob was my fire maker today. And Bob, when you're making a cooking fire, is there anything, what are you aiming for?
Well, first of all, we used the hardwood. Used oak, don't use pine, that you don't get any coals from it. We got it going good, and we actually piled up a pretty good amount of wood. Just let it burn down, though. We started this fire at about 3 o'clock. And here it is 5, and it's a perfect, I'll be honest, it looks like it's just gray and ash, but that is one hot set of coals up there. And the nice thing is you can control it. If you notice, we have this big area to work in, so we can take a little bit of coals out. And we were just talking about doing these little Johnny cakes, or Johnny cakes, or whatever folks like to call them. Little hoe cakes, shovel cakes, what do you want to call them?
Which are traditionally done with cornmeal. We're going to use a little bit of rice. Matter of fact, we're not only going to use rice, we're going to use rice flour, all right, to make this. So what I've got here is we've got, again, about a cup, maybe a cup and a half of rice. I poured some milk into it. This has been sitting for a while, so you can see a lot of it's been soaked up. There's still a little bit, but that's all right. That'll be fine. So what we're going to take is some rice flour.
Now, I have to say, when you read about the troops here during the American Revolution, all these poor folks from Pennsylvania, Maryland and such, and they keep getting issued rice, and more rice, and they say they miss wheat, they miss bread. And of course, I think rice bread is actually quite nice. I think it's a pretty dense, to me it's kind of a rich bread, I think.
I just had a loaf of that from Half Crown Bakehouse. Shout out to Justin. Half Crown Bakehouse, he sells those at the Sea Island Farmers Market pretty much every week. Carolina rice bread.
All right, we've added a little bit more of that demerara. Again, it's just raw sugar. That's looking pretty good, but I'm going to need just a little bit more flour here. All right. We're going to make a, fairly stiff batter.
Yep.
Nothing, we've got, if you put too much in, we've got a little bit of milk here. We can always put this back together. It's no problem.
I might take some of that shortening and throw it in.
Yeah. Now, we're going to cook the way you're supposed to cook. All right? All this olive oil, vegetable, all that stuff's wonderful. However, there is nothing like cooking with lard. Okay, my grandmother swore by it. All right, as she said, as she told my mother, cooking with lard, you'll win a man's heart. You'll probably kill him as well, but that he'll be true his whole time. So it's okay. He will never leave you as long as you do that. I think we need just a little bit more. Yeah, that's looking a little better to me. Okay. So now what Bob's using there, and we get a lot of questions about this, is a spider pan. Matter of fact, Bob, don't you have a story about a spider pan in a house downtown?
Well, I was actually here at a meeting, and they were talking about looking at inventories, and they said, we didn't know. We thought must have had a lot of problem with bugs. They had a lot of spiders listed in their kitchens. And I said, I think that's a pan, actually, is what they're talking about, not an actual spider. But it's called that. You can see the nice legs on it there. Does a great job keeping it up off the fire. And oftentimes I'll just heat this and take it off the coals. I'm going to leave it on there, let it get nice and hot. And I put a fair amount of shortening in there to get a nice little, kind of almost a little frying base. Let's get a fair bit in there. We get it nice and hot. And really what we're going to do is just making this nice stiff batter. We just kind of drop it on, let the bottom firm, and then we can just press it a little bit. It makes like a nice firm cake.
Is that all right? Right there is about what
Yeah, we could probably make that work.
Okay.
Yeah.
we can add. Well, let's add just
stiffen
a
it
little bit more.
Yeah. Now, I've heard some folks call these things journey cakes, Jarny cakes. Up north, they say Johnny cakes. You can call them Hoe Cakes, corn dodgers. I like to call them an 18th or 19th century power bar. You take this, whether it be rice or corn, really just fry it up, and you can actually then take and let it cool, wrap it up, and carry it with you just about anywhere.
There we go.
It's kind of the all-purpose meal.
You want to
Sure,
hand
let me throw
over, or
it.
you want me to come over to you? Or do you want to do it?
Yeah, go for it, go for it. You
Okay.
worked hard on it. You've earned it.
I'll put them on.
I took the pan off. It should still be pretty hot. Unless you want it a little hotter, we can really...
That's probably okay.
Yeah, she's smoking a little bit.
All right. So what I'm going to do, and I'll try not to use my fingers here.
Yeah, need a little scoop to push it off.
There we go.
Yeah, just let it...
And we'll try to
Yeah.
get, I'll try to get them as uniform as possible. I'm not going to swear by anything.
Yeah, they'll fit on the plate. We'll be all right.
And remember, if you watch any of those cooking shows, remember what they say, don't crowd the pan. So let's do one more. Okay. What do you think? I think that'll
Yeah,
work
pretty close.
good
I
there.
might throw that one over. I don't like to let them lay on there too long.
Yeah, they'll start to brown up
Okay,
a
we
little
can
bit.
go a
There we
little longer. We can go a little longer. Yeah, they'll cook up nice.
You know, rice is one of those foods, when you think about it, is really a part of this big creolization that happened out here, okay? Rice is not only the cash crop here, but remember, as we said earlier in the week, the first rice that was grown here in South Carolina was not for a commodity. It was for food. It was for substance out here, okay? And a lot of times we think of rice, you know, I think especially today, we think of it as more of a side dish. But this was used in many different things. And if you look here, let's say, in sometimes what's referred to as the Carolina kitchen, all right, we see rice with purlus, or casseroles, or sweets, or even condiments. Rice was also used for medicinal purposes, especially for like invalids or babies. Rice
You know,
milk.
For a lot of
was made
Europeans,
here.
they thought rice really was for sick people.
Yeah.
But I think it's the experience a lot of the South Carolinians have, honestly, with a lot of the enslaved people who come here from West Africa, with that long tradition of using rice in their cuisine, folks coming out of the Caribbean, and really sort of seeing what can be done with it. And it's such a huge commodity here. One of my favorite sayings is, you know, Charleston's like, folks from Charleston are like the Chinese. They revere their ancestors and live on rice, you know. And it is. It's something, of course, that's changed a little bit today. No, these are looking good.
All right. We're starting to get a nice little golden brown on us here. Okay. Like Bob said, sometimes these were called journey cakes. These were called hoe cakes, but I always have to add, not because they were cooked on a hoe. All right. Not that you couldn't do it that way. Hoe is a traditional term for a small cake cooked like this. All right. It has nothing to do with what you're cooking it on.
Gives it extra flavor, doesn't it?
Yes. And that's one other thing I think when we're talking historic cooking, cooking it like it's not only over this open hearth, which, by the way, takes a lot of skill. We're very fortunate here at Middleton Place. I have several volunteers that do the cooking for us, which they are excellent. And using not only the fire here, but using these types of pots. This is a little bit different. Using this cast iron or trying to use the skillet here over this fire, which you have to really regulate this heat. You have to really pay attention to what you're doing out here with this.
The cookbook that Jeff mentioned was the Carolina Housewife. It was written by Sarah Middleton Rutledge in 1847. Carolina Housewife.
I think.
Shall we show?
Sure.
There we go.
There she is, the Carolina Housewife, Sarah Rutledge. She's a Middleton daughter. She married into the Rutledges.
And again, all of these recipes here can be found here in this cookbook. All right.
Now, what's the likelihood that Sarah herself is cooking these recipes?
Oh, sorry. Supervising, without a doubt.
Surely in the kitchen, but not necessarily hands in the ingredients.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. I love reading some of her instructions in the cookbook. For example, one recipe, she has several for rice cakes or rice hoe cakes, and I love the ingredient or the amount is a slap of flour. Right? Not exactly sure what a slap of flour is, how much that is. All right. Also, yeah, I guess you just kind of throw it in there or something, or a handful of like pecans. Well, whose hand we're talking about? You know, it's very much so. So some of this, and this is what I think is fun looking at some of these cookbooks and trying to do these recipes, is sometimes trying to figure out exactly what works. So it's a little experimentation, and I can tell from personal experience. I've made some really bad meals out here.
Oh, yeah.
I've made some. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. Thanks for the support. You know. Oh, here. Let me get you a plate.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So here we are, about ready to serve up. And
Browning up
I
nicely.
think we may be looking at the pudding and the
Oh yeah. We almost.
the others will probably be about
You know,
done.
I'm just gonna pull this off and let it.
Okay.
settle
Well, I'm
cool
going
here.
to set this right here. We'll cool this off here so we can bring up the other pots.
Yep.
Let us know what other questions you have, folks. This is absolutely an interactive
Now,
opportunity,
Bob, I think you
so
may be a little more informed of this than I am. What time exactly would dinner be?
Actually,
or lunch or anything.
it varies. I find that for the wealthier folks, it's much later in the day, and for others, I think you talk about supper, more about 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it's. I find one of the things we often get questions about when people are wearing 18th and 19th century clothes. They talk about how could they go about with all those clothes on. And of course, I always say they probably aren't socializing until about 8 o'clock at night. So I think, again, depending on the time of year, it would vary. But actually earlier, sort of our, what is it, the Florida special, you know, the 4 o'clock dinner. All right, let's see. Hopefully we didn't leave it on too
Let's see
long.
how we're doing. And I will take this up to the table once you get that all fair. Notice we've even got a little browning going on. Smells okay. All right, take that up. Mikey is just to serve it out of the Dutch oven and trying to get the pot out right now.
Think I should? No, I think that looks pretty good. It's pulled away from the edges a bit.
Yeah,
Go a little
I
longer,
think
or
we're,
you-
no, I think we're okay on that. As I step in the
I
fire.
was saying, mind your feet. That's hot.
There we go. Well,
Chris in the new shoes, right?
as someone told me, you haven't cooked until you've caught yourself on fire at least once. So, so we have our. Let me move this over here a little bit. You can see our little thing. So we have our rice cakes or rice hoe cakes or rice journey cakes. All right, we have in here. We have our. I'll start with this. Well, yeah, we'll start with this one. We have our rice pie, and then lastly, we have our rice pudding. And again, not only are these are all done over here over the overhead, but these can either be done on the stove or in the oven.
I'm kind of impressed by your pudding, Jeff. I'll be very honest.
You know what? I'm impressed as well. I'm very impressed by that.
I wasn't expecting it to look
But
so
tell you
bad.
what, let's just.
The proof is in the pudding, right? It's
Okay.
not bad.
Probably could have gone maybe a little longer,
Yeah,
but I think we're
yeah.
okay. And let's get. Excuse me here. We'll get one more spoon.
Oh,
I hope I have another spoon. Oh yeah, we'll use the wooden spoon here. Here we go. Excuse me. Ignore the man in the magic box
ignore the man behind
with
the
all
curtain.
his stuff. And this is our rice. That's our rice pie.
Well, that looks pretty good.
Oh, I forgot the one thing. We lined this with boiled eggs on the top.
That looks really good.
Shall we make a plate?
Oh, we shall. We shall.
Okay. We'll give you that. So You know, I think just like we today, these people of the past, dinner was a special time. I mean, this was a time to sit around and converse and have family and friends, and I think that's for everyone. So, it smells good, so we'll get a little bit of that.
I know we talk about interpretation here and sort of, you know, the past is a foreign place and interpreting it. One of the universals really is food. And talking about not just its origins and not just its
Fingers.
but really the act of making it and eating it too. Boy, that doesn't look half bad.
And here, I'll give you that one.
Camera operator is stealing a journey cake.
Hey, and I was gonna say we can make you a plate as well. So we'll try this.
A little pudding.
Well, it's hot and it's cooked. I'll say that. How's the pudding?
That's pretty good.
Well, this is where TV and live streaming fail us, folks, because we wish that you could be here for smell-o-vision and taste-o-vision, but we can't do that. Technology is lovely, but it's not that good.
The rice cake is
wanna
it's
see
dense.
inside
I
the
like it
journey
though.
cake.
It has nice dense. It has a nice density to it. That's pretty good.
Excellent.
Very cool. Who's got more questions for us, folks? Who's got
We're getting everybody
questions?
hungry.
Besides, how does it taste? Because I'll tell you, it tastes lovely. So,
I have to admit, I feel a little different. And people are watching us eat. Bon appetit.
So, for all these recipes, you're talking now. This book is published in the 1840s.
I think it was 47.
47.
Right.
But would you think? I mean, with a lot of these cookbooks, they're not really. I mean, I hear people often talk about cookbooks not being representative of everyday cooking. I mean, the fact that, you know, the everyday recipes folks just had in their heads, you know, like you said, a slap of this, a pinch of that. So, I mean, would you think of this as being sort of the everyday cuisine, or would it maybe be a Sunday or a special occasion or a...
I think we have a mixture here.
Okay.
Very much on this. Though, I think you're right as far as some of the common dishes. I mean, I remember talking to a cook once, an 18th century cook who was excellent, and she pointed out, she says, you know, if you go buy 18th century cookbooks, no one ever ate a fried egg. Because there's no recipe for a fried egg.
Right.
I think we can assume someone ate a fried egg, probably, more than likely.
But it was just such a common thing.
It's just a common thing. Why write it down? Exactly. With that. So I think with this, and let me bring out one more book I would recommend as well.
while you're doing that, Jeff, I just want you to know, Linda says you better eat up because that's your dinner.
Oh, my lovely wife. I love her. This is another one that we use quite a bit here at Middleton Place when we're doing this interpretation of food waste. This is called the Carolina Rice Kitchen. All right. Now, originally the Carolina Rice Kitchen cookbook was published in 1901. It's a collection of many recipes all centered around rice, but this edition is actually an annotated edition that gives a lot more history and a lot more explanation on the recipes. And where many of these originated, you know. And it's interesting when you're looking at the rice recipes, as we expected, you see a lot of African influence, as expected. You also see a lot of Asian influence, but there's also quite a bit of English influence with the rice recipes as well, which was, I'll admit, I was a little surprised. Probably the one thing that really surprised me was the substituting, or the addition, I should say, of rice with wheat to make bread. If you did not have enough wheat, you know, to make bread, or to spread out this, you know, how much you had. I was surprised by that.
Well, I know for a lot of people, it's, you know, the cuisine here is so very different from the north, and it's because really it is being based more on the Caribbean and Africa, without a doubt. Is there a question?
We do. Would there have been leftovers at a meal like this, Heather wants to know, and what would they do with them?
Oh. Yes. Okay. Some leftovers would be served for the next meal, depending what it was, especially like a meat or something like that. It may be repurposed into another dish as well. And also, for in case of, let's say, enslaved house servants, there is that possibility. I don't want to say there's a guarantee, but there is a possibility that they are being able to take some of these leftovers and be able to use them for themselves. All right. Not always the case, but in some cases, yes.
Now, generally, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, breakfast was, generally speaking, cold or very small. So you do see where, things.
That's
something
what
in
I've
the pot
heard.
from
The
night
joints of
before.
meat from the night before become
exactly.
the meat for breakfast.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, that usually the midday meal was more the larger meal.
Sure.
And then the later
And,
meal.
and if you think a lot of that with the midday meal being a little large, I think a lot of it's got to do with the climate as well. Yeah. So yes, leftovers would be used. Yeah. I keep thinking, if you made a vegetable course one day, and then the next day, what do you see is like maybe some type of stew or a purloo or something like that you would see.
Oh, there's a good question.
Uh-oh.
It's a good. What did they do to keep the food cold? And while you answer that, I'm gonna put that last Johnny cake on this board, and then I'm gonna try some of that pudding if that's cool. So what did they do to keep
that plate.
So what they do to keep the food cold, gents?
Well, as we have here at Middleton Place, we do have a spring house. And the spring, of course, the spring with cold, fresh water coming off the side of the hill. I actually took the temperature. It was during an August, one of those warmer days. It was in the morning. It was before noontime. But the water coming off there was about 65 degrees, which isn't exactly your refrigerator temperature. But when it comes to keeping things like some butter or cream or something, that would definitely be a big help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, the seasonality to it. I mean, you're not going to see fresh tomatoes in February, and you're not going to see, fresh milk everywhere. I mean, milk really was, and butter especially, more of a rare commodity.
Yeah, and also with butter and milk, if you look at especially historic cookbooks, or if you look at the Southern diet, let's say up until the 20th century, it's not there a whole lot. It's not, and part of it is because being able to preserve it and be able to keep this. The addition with our spring house, besides having that spring run into it, also keep in mind, it's built into the side of a hill. All right, so if you think, so you almost think of like a cellar or a basement or something like that. So that's one way to help keep these things preserved. Other things that were preserved, maybe not necessarily using it from cold, but you're using a lot of brines, a lot of pickling.
Salted beef, salted pork,
and Bob's favorite subject that we'd love to have a smoke out here one day is smoking this stuff.
Yeah.
Very much so. That was used quite a bit. Also, there were other, I've seen other recipes, like one way to preserve eggs, and I've never tried this, is you bury them in hay.
Well,
and according to, I think it's the Hannah Glass cookbook, they should last a year inside hay.
I'll let you try that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
They would do what they call potato banks, where you can use pine straw or other materials to keep it spaced, even sand, and you have it above ground. I mean, you don't have to worry about a frost here and such. But if you space out, just like a root cellar up north, by using these what they call potato banks, you can store different things. And of course, I find that the sweet potato is probably far more common here than the Irish, the white, what we think of as the white potato. And again, banking like that. Any of these root vegetables, your carrots, your potatoes. And honestly, this time of year, your root vegetables would be, they'd be pretty good. You'd be having them through the winter, but there are times when they'd be pretty sad, but they don't look bad in a stew or a purloo or something like that.
And you reminded me one thing, with that rice, keep in mind, with these purloos, okay, what we're talking about a purloo is historically basically a purloo, the three basic ingredients of a purloo generally were rice, chicken, and bacon. Now on top of that, you would have broth and you could have vegetables and other stuff like that. But if you think it with this rice, if you think of Hoppin' John, okay, the beans and field peas and rice, or if you think of Limpin' Susan, the okra and rice, that rice acts as like a sponge to bring it
all up.
Binds it together, and also it soaks in all that flavor. Which is just fantastic.
All right, guys, I have a question. So here you can see my plate is clean. That rice pudding is ridiculous. It's really good. If you guys have a penchant for the 18th century, their favorite spice ever was nutmeg, and everything has nutmeg, and it has a lot of nutmeg.
That's very right. Yeah,
I'm so fortunate that I love nutmeg because, man,
that's very true. When I look at recipes and if I see nutmeg, that's the first thing I think of is like, okay, this is probably 18th century.
Yeah,
and by the way, nutmeg in pot roast is fantastic. It's I was hesitant at first, but that was really good.
Well, I know some of these things, of course, we're talking about all kinds of spices and whatnot. I mean, Charleston was quite the port in the 18th century. I mean, they talk about it being one of the wealthiest cities in North America. So all these things would definitely be here. Now, I think if you go back 50 miles or so, it would be a little thin, shall we say, but we're definitely here, especially with these rice planters. They would have really the ability to get almost anything. Almost any time of year.
Yeah.
So if we look in the Dutch ovens here, guys, remember that the ovens, these cast iron pots, are ovens. That's why they're named that way. These are the conductors of heat. But this rice pie is in a ceramic pie plate. It's in a pie plate.
Now there is one thing below it.
And there
I
is
think
something
it's warm
below it,
enough
'cause
that
it's
we
sitting
can.
pretty high. So it's got a trivet under it.
We have a trivet underneath.
Which
Okay,
helps with the
so
circulating of the heat around it more
Yeah.
evenly.
And the same
if you
thing.
want to make this in the oven, pie plate,
Yeah.
trivet. So your standard pie plates, I guess you could probably do it in glass, but if you happen to have ceramic pie plates, just use your pie plates in
And
your
all
oven.
these are done by the old potter we used to have here. They used to do
Yeah, I
this
don't know
stuff.
that guy.
You know, I'm
No,
not
I'm
sure.
kidding.
Cranky old man, yes, right.
And I'll be honest. When I was a potter here, when I used these, I was actually a little scared because I'm like, oh man, please don't break, please don't crack, or anything like that. But everything seemed to turn out all right.
Yeah.
So.
That's great. Well, if anybody has any other questions, drop them in the comments. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep eating while you guys watch.
Oh, great.
Hi, Frank. Thanks for joining us from Williamsburg. Appreciate you being here. Let us know if you have any other questions, guys. We'll see if we can get at least these recipes. I think they should be up on our website, or if they're not, they will be.
They should be, yeah.
Yeah, they should already be up there.
And
so...
we have the historic recipes on. Maybe we can put a little variation on there for you as well.
Sure.
With that.
And I mentioned, but it might have been during Lamb Cam, that the Carolina Housewife is out of copyright. So if you need to have this recipe right now today, go onto your internet archive, archive.org, and you can find it there. But we'd really appreciate it, and I know a bunch of historic sites around the country and a bunch of nonprofits would appreciate it if you wouldn't mind buying a copy from them. So if you wouldn't mind that, we'd appreciate that. Support either Middleton Place or a different historic site that might be selling this, or Historic Foundation. But if you just can't live without it right now, it is available because it's out of copyright. So let's see. I got here late. How did they heat up the meal? Oh, Florence. Well, they cooked it. They cooked it right here on our
And honestly,
fire.
the fire looks like it's out, but it's still very hot. Those coals, that's a great cooking fire right there. Those are burnt down, a lot of hardwood coals, a lot of oak in there. Really perfect for this kind of work, heating up these ovens.
Yeah. Thank you, Digital Middleton Place. We have a link right there in the comments section now where you can find those recipes.
Awesome.
Digital
excellent.
Middleton Place
There
is
we go.
awesome.
Fantastic.
And Mom, you can tell Dad that his plate is at my house whenever you guys can visit next. Hi, Dad. I'll make you this food when you come and visit next, or when I visit you, when it's safe. All right. Okay, guys. Well, if you have any further questions, please put them in the comments. We really do forward these questions to the appropriate answerers if you ask them after the live broadcast is over. So truly, if you come up with something later on, drop it right here in this video thread of comments, and we will forward it to the appropriate answerer. Florence, it's your birthday!
Happy
Oh, it's
birthday.
your birthday soon. That's right. We talked about that yesterday. Well, happy May birthday. Yeah, hopefully we'll get to see you soon. Yeah, happy birthday. All right. Well, I think we're all set for now, gents.
Sounds good.
Thanks very much. This has wrapped up our spring planting week Unplugged into History. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We have a great lineup. Next week, we are going downtown. We're going to visit our downtown cousins at the
cool.
Edmonston Alston House. So we'll be there. Flat Arthur will be there. And we'll have some interesting conversation with our wonderful partners at the Charleston Museum. Shout out to Heather and Liza. Hey, ladies, we'll see you next week. Shout out to Caitlin and Virginia at the EA House. We'll see you next week. We look forward to talking urban plantations with you guys. So, all right. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, as always, for supporting our mission to connect people with the past and learn more about each other. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Take
Stay
care.
healthy.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.